Right, the very beginning of July, as we make our way down towards the main garden, I can't help but pause at this enormously frothy, cloudy, blossomy, giant sea kale with the honey-scented flowers which are scenting away. Here's some dancing dieramas. Even when there's no wind, there's always a bit of movement. Some much more robust diorama. Calycanthus. This is the white form, which I love. It's not really pure white, it's a bit of pink in there as well. It's rather straw-like buds, out of which pop these big flowers. I thought we'd look at some allspice. Now, they come from the US, and there are some in China. Now, this one, I can't say is terribly ornamental, and has rather an optimistic name, the Eastern Sweet Bush. It is scented, but to my mind, the scent is somewhat sort of sour. I don't know. Anyway, I wouldn't have thought the flower was terribly ornamental. Or the Carolina allspice. And we'll go and have a look at the Chinese one, which I think you'll find is absolutely beautiful, but not scented. Now, in contrast, I thought we'd look at this rather small young shrub of the Chinese version of the spice bush. And I think you'll agree that looks rather more decorative, rather intricate, and really rather beautiful. I can see another one here. Now, how about that? This is the Chinese Calycanthus. Now, hybridists have been joining these two together, the American allspice with the Chinese version. And one of the results of their labours is this rather remarkable Calycanthus Aphrodite, it's called. It's got the intriguing flower shape of the Chinese Calycanthus and the wine red colouring of the Carolina allspice. Not scented, but it's in the shade here, but still the flowers are dotted about, and there are a lot more buds to open yet. Here we've got a rather unusual form of the pheasant bush. If you ignore the dangly spent wisteria flowers, behind it you can see some yellow flowers. This is Leycesteria crocothyrsos. This is moderately hardy. I think it had a bad reputation because the very first introduction from China in 1926 was from actually from Myanmar, sorry. It was a rather low elevation, so it was a bit tender and immediately died at Kew the first winter, so considered to be terribly tender. But in fact, since then, there have been introductions which are much more hardy, and this one really has survived many, many years here, although we don't get an awful lot of frost, I must confess. Walking down from the greenhouse, I'm amazed to see this variegated sycamore, which I grew from seed. Tiny little variegated seedling it was. And now it seems to produce these amazing ornamental red seeds. And here they are, really dotted all over the tree, which makes it extremely ornamental in my view, even though the variegation has got a slightly burnt. Nevertheless, I'm very pleased with this seedling, even though it's now almost 40 feet tall. I'd like to show you this unusual Viburnum, which now seems to have grown up to about 4 meters. And at this time of year, it's absolutely covered with its white flowers and makes a really good ornamental effect. This is Viburnum henryi, named after Augustine Henry, who discovered it in China. After about 2 months, this branch will be covered in red berries, which makes it ornamental. It is an evergreen shrub. And as I say, the new foliage in the spring is a reddish hue. A very ornamental small tree or large shrub. On alert, hey Bertie? What can you see? Anything? Not a lot. Just keeping guard. Oh. This funny shrub or small tree doesn't seem to have much to recommend it, frankly. And the flower spikes just look a bit muddy from a distance. But actually, on closer inspection, they are sort of a purple with tiny gold tips to the flowers. It's very intriguing close up. Let's have a look. Here's a group of 3. We can, you see, make out the sort of purple flowers and the tiny golden tips. This is Amorpha canescens. This is also known as the lead plant or false indigo, and it's quite widespread in the Midwest of the USA and into Canada even. There are quite a few grey-leafed Olearias about, and the most commonly planted, really, I suppose, if it is common, is Olearia macrodonta. This has got big grey leaves and big flowers, but this, I think, is much much prettier. This has got somewhat narrower grey leaves, and the flowers are in smaller groups. I think makes it a very desirable bush. Additional attractive features to this, I think, rather delicate bush are the leaves, which have got a sort of pale underside, and the stems, which are quite red. The stems both for the leaves and for these little corymbs of dainty daisy flowers. Olearia ilicifolia, which is the holly leaf Olearia. The whole thing has a sort of scent of aromatic scent to it, which is also rather nice. And to cap it all, the flowers have a most wonderful honey fragrance. I have several Stewartias in the garden, which make very attractive small trees, sometimes with attractive bark as well. And the autumn colour is normally fabulous scarlet. Now in the summer they do produce flowers which look a bit like a camellia. This one, as you can see, has not many flowers on it, but they are attractive, albeit small. This is Stewartia monadelpha, it's called. It's only a few years old, this tree, and I'm hoping for greater things when it's a bit more mature. Now here's my 35-year-old evergreen magnolia from China, called Magnolia delavei. Now this seems to promise an awful lot. It's got a great big evergreen leaves, and look at the lovely juicy bud. You think, ooh, my goodness, that's going to turn into something fabulosa. But actually, disappointingly, I mean, there are some of the flowers. Nothing much to write home about, quite honestly. And what's more, by the afternoon, they've gone a sort of brown colour. Most disappointing. So really one has to think of it in terms of a large evergreen shrub or tree, actually, and just put aside one's disappointment with the flowering. Well, I'll leave you to admire the cascading flowers of the New Zealand broom, Cordifolia stevensoni, which is now called Calycanthus stevensoni. Covered in its caterpillar-like flowers. Several bees are enjoying it as well.